What's up, Knife Tube? It's Diamond Cut Steel, and you guys are going to learn something today. So, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a beautiful day, and we're going to have some fun. So, what we're going to do today, we've got a budget classic right here. Something that you'll hear a lot of people say. It's dollar for dollar. Make sure you guys are in frame. Something you'll hear a lot of people say is dollar for dollar. One of the best budget knives you can buy. I don't know if I'm in that camp, but it is a very good budget knife. And that would be the Ruike P801. Stainless steel frame lock, 14C, nice crispy action. Just, a good knife. A good knife. I don't know if I would call it one of the best, the best budget knife, because you can pick these up for about $30. Now it's definitely a good budget knife, but I don't know about one of the best. Just a little slurry stone from King works really great. Kind of condition that stone. Okay, my camera's a little higher than normal. Hold on just a second, guys. How's that? Looking good. Alrighty, so here we have the King 300. And of course, this is in 14C. This has been a heavily used edge. Stropped back many times. Still very sharp. Or, I don't want to say very sharp, but it's sharp. Certainly a sharp knife still. But it's at that point to where the steel just has been stropped back so many times that it doesn't take hardly any use, and the edge is needing to be stropped again. That steel is just overly fatigued and it needs to go bye-bye. So we're gonna really take the steel off of that while I'm at it. I'm glad I thought about this. Now y'all see I just doled the fuck out of this knife, right? Okay. I was talking to somebody on one of those Sharpen's Best in the comment section. And, I said that paper cutting can be done, if you know what you're doing, you can take a pretty dull knife and still cut paper. Now, newspaper is definitely harder to cut than like a magazine paper, for example. But if you know how to do it, you can take a pretty dull knife and still get it to cut. I wish I wouldn't have took this quite this far. I'm probably not going to be able to get this to cut, but I can maybe be able to get it to. Let's see. Yeah, I think I went just a little bit too far. But, well, no, look at that. Okay. You see that? Now, it's hard to get it to start, but look. Look at that. Okay, of course, now it's a raggedy cut, but this is a dull, completely flattened apex. Okay, so just like I told him, fucking Brad Buckner saying, "Oh yeah, look how sharp this is." You can cut magazine paper with a quite dull knife if you know what you're doing, and with as much paper as that fucker sits there and cuts, he definitely knows how to cut some paper. You know what I mean? So just like hair whittling, there's a trick to it. It takes an extremely sharp knife to whittle hair with the hair grain. It takes a pretty sharp knife to whittle against the grain. So a knife that wouldn't even think about whittling with the grain. As long as you know which way the grain's running, you can get that edge to whittle just by going against the grain. If it's a good sharp edge, it should be able to whittle against the grain. Whittling is a trick. Now, there is no trick to whittling with the grain except for an extremely sharp knife. Just like swirl cutting in paper, but especially like newspaper. Swirl cutting in newspaper, there's not really a trick to it. The knife's either extremely sharp and capable of it, or it's not. Okay? So, when he's sitting there and slicing that paper, oh, look how sharp it is. Okay? I mean, you just seen I cut newspaper with a knife that I completely just wrecked the edge on. This is a absolutely dull knife. Look at this. Look how hard I'm pressing. Look at my skin. Look at the divots in my skin. Okay? This is a dull knife. The apex is totally crushed. And I cut newspaper. Come on, man. Like what he's showing, and look how sharp it is. I'm not saying you can't get a knife sharp with one of those things. I can get a knife to cut pretty decent with one of those. With a tungsten bar sharpener. My problem with him is he's selling them for like $40 or so for something that you can go on Amazon and buy a tungsten bar sharpener for like $3. Do the same exact thing. The edges, they don't last. They crush right in. They'll hold up for a little while, but they're shit. That's just the way it is. They're shit. And if you was an emergency, could you get an edge to cut? Of course. But him and his little buddies acting like, oh, how sharp it is. Okay, that is not a fucking sharp knife. I just cut newspaper with a knife that I completely killed the edge on. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're just going to do the sharpening, and feel like going some king stones. So we're going to go king 300 to remove some steel. That bevel is convexed a little bit, probably from all the strut backs. Okay, so we're going to set it right there. But yeah, you can take a knife that's quite dull, and if you know how to cut paper, you can cut paper with it. And say if it's like, a stiffer paper, you can take a really dull knife and do it. Yeah, another thing, it's like paper towel cutting. Paper towel cutting is a trick too. Like there's an art to it. There's a way to do it. If you know how to do it, the knife doesn't have to be crazy sharp. If a little bit of tension on the paper towel, and it's many times easier to cut. Little bit of tension, S-cut, no problem. It's easy. That tension, that little bit of tension, is what Now don't get me wrong. To do it, the knife still has to be deburred well. You have to have a fairly crisp and clean apex with some bite. And there's another art to it. You don't cut it like this. To cut, like when somebody's taking a knife, and it doesn't have to be that sharp. Just to do a straight cut, you put a little bit of tension on it, put the knife like this. Not like this, like this. So you're kind of slicing down at a very large angle like that. And it doesn't take that sharp of a knife to cut paper towel. Now, free hanging paper towel, different story. That's when you have to have a very good edge to slice a free hanging paper towel. But, you know, a lot of these guys trying to trick y'all into thinking, oh, look how sharp of a fucking knife this is. It's, you know, it's a lot of it's tricks. There's tricks to it. Like, it's, you know, if I had to say there's any show of sharpness, that there's no tricks involved other than it's just a fucking sharp knife, is slicing a free hanging paper towel and whittling a hair with the grain. Now, again, whittling it against the grain is not necessarily a trick, because you still have to have a very sharp knife to whittle against the grain. You have to have a very well-defined apex. But it's substantially easier to whittle against the grain than it is with the grain. Okay? You know, I'm intentionally removing a little more steel off this knife than I need to, because this knife right here has seen a lot of cutting on that edge. I want to get rid of some of that steel. That steel, it needs to go. And right now is when it's going to go. So we're going to remove a decent bit. Oh, another part about paper towel slicing that's a trick. The paper towel you use is also got a lot to do with it. Stiffer paper towels like Bounty, Brawny, just stiffer paper towels are much easier to cut than, say, something like Viva, like a quilted, a true quilted paper towel, with like multi-directional fibers. If it's, like a stiffer type paper towel, it's going to have a grain. And as long as you're going with that grain, it's going to cut much easier. But with, like those quilted, they have like Viva, for example, where the fibers are kind of running in all directions, is substantially harder to slice. Even with a little bit of tension. Say you got it on a rack and, you put a little bit of tension on it with a stiffer paper towel, you slice it, it doesn't take that sharp of a knife. I did it with a knife that I just dulled. If you go look back in the shorts, I took and dulled the knife, and then like 30 seconds on a ceramic rod, and I'm cleanly slicing paper towel. Okay. If that was Viva, that edge would have no chance of slicing that paper towel. None. It requires a pretty damn well done edge to slice Viva, or your higher quality, more quilted type paper towels, like unidirectional fibers. It takes a substantially sharper edge to cut those cleanly. And I mean substantially sharper. So basically, Don't just automatically believe everything, somebody shows you. Oh, look how sharp this is. I mean, a sharp knife's a sharp knife, but you know, like there's some art to it. There's some tricks that you're seeing that are allowing people to show you a knife that looks wicked sharp, and it's not as sharp as you think it is. Like, just keep that in mind, especially when somebody's trying to sell you something. Okay, we have removed a decent bit of steel. We are beautifully on the bevel, getting that convexing out of there. Okay, we've definitely got some more steel to remove. See, this knife has been stropped back so many times that the edge bevel has started to convex, like a noticeable amount. That tells you how many times this thing's stropped back, and it's a lot. Like, hell, I don't even know how many times, but a lot. And when you do that, that steel gets more and more fatigued. Like I said, say you start out and it gets you through a day. After a couple strop backs, instead of it getting you through a day before it needs to be stropped again, now it's getting you through 5 hours. Okay. After a couple more strop backs, now it's getting you through, 3 hours of your day before it needs to be stropped again. And it's going to continue to do that. It's going to get more and more fatigued the more times you strop it back. And it's going to need to get back on the strop quicker. So, once it gets down to where you're needing to strop it, say 2 or 3 times during a day to keep it where you need it, during your work day, at that point, it's time to go ahead and, all right, time to get this steel gone. That steel is tired, it's worn out, it needs to be put to rest. Still got a little bit moo. So yeah, like it's for me, how I kind of judge it, and this one went far over that. Once the knife reaches a point to where it's dropping back and only getting about half the normal life I expect that before it needs to be stropped again, that's when it's time that I consider, okay, that's an overly fatigued edge, and it is time to remove that steel. So like I said, say it initially gets me through a day and I start 5 or 6 strop backs and it's still getting me through a day. And then, at the time I've stropped it back, say 10 times. And now, instead of it getting me through a day, it's getting me through half a day before it needs to be stropped again. That's where I call it. Once it reaches half of what it would do initially, then it's time to go ahead and say, needs to hit the stones. Do I have a low spot? No, I don't think so. Why am I not getting a burr right here? Got a nice defined burr everywhere, except for right here. Okay. But why? There's no recurve through in it. That's odd. Oh well. Move a little bit more. But this one went way over that, half rule I just spoke about. This thing has been stropped back to where it's probably within, 2 hours it's needing to be restropped. My first two morning hours, and it's already needing to hit the strop again. Maybe not even that long. So in that case, this one's way overdue. Like I said, it had been stropped back enough that the edge had started to convex. That's pretty intense. All right, we're starting to get a burr, but not completely. Yeah, that's okay. It's close. It's close. I guess they're. Huh. It's odd that I'm not pulling a burr up there. It's there now. It's just very light. There must be a teeny bit of recurving because it does got that knife does have a strange plunge, or not a very well done plunge. So I may have gotten a teeny bit of recurve in it that I've cleaned up now, but it's there enough that it was affecting me. Now I'm gonna go to the 800 and then 1200. And the reason I'm gonna do that and not just go straight to the 1200, which I could easily do, just because I want to remove a little more steel. So we're gonna work 2 stones instead of 1. Plus, I really love the feel of these stones. Damn it, I should have got that conditioning stone. Yeah, I really love the feel of these sharpening on a kingstone. Really love it. So just using very light pressure. Okay. Get a little bit of that abrasive slurry going on. Y'all see. Yeah. I ever told y'all how much I love sharpening on kingstones? If you've never sharpened on a kingstone, get you one. It's such a nice experience to sharpen on these stones. I enjoy it so much. There's just, I don't know, there's just something truly special about sharpening on these kingstones. Like I love it, man. It's just it's a different experience. It's a different experience. It's a different experience. There's just, I don't know. There's something special about it. The sound, the feel, believe it or not, the smell. These stones have a very natural smell, much like clay. Okay. See where we're at. Okay. Still only have a very light burr right there in the center. I must have a little bit of, I don't though. I don't have no recurve in there. None. Not that I can see anyways. That's interesting. Okay, there's the 800. But yeah, I'm serious, guys. Yo, if you've never sharpened on a kingstone, man, get you one. There's just something special about them. They just it just feels natural. That's the best way you can explain it. Like, it feels like if you were a caveman and you were sharpening a stick on a rock, that's wet, and you wet that rock, and it like this is what it feels like. I don't know. It's just there's something special about them. Okay, I'm gonna bring up a little bit more of a slurry on this stone. This is a 1200. The 800 step in between was not needed, but I did it because I wanted to. I wanted to just remove a little more steel. Okay. Man, this 1200 feels nice. I'll tell you, this is going to be a really nice edge on 14C. A really nice edge. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just walk that burr back over. Whew, it's going to be a pretty edge. Okay. So now let's go ahead and start working that burr off. Fatiguing it. Got that bevel nice and flat so I can feel it. Got all that convexity out of it. Okay. Let's see, clean it off. See where we're at. I'm going to make a very light deburring pass edge leading. I'm just going to make it very, very light. Okay. Let's get this bad boy out the way. Stone is beautiful. Boy. Grab something to clean this water up with. Telling you, man, get you a something, a silicone mat to sharpen in, so you don't get this damn mess. Make your life a lot easier. Okay. So without touching it to a strappy strap, see where we're at. Ooh, beautiful. See how far I'm initiating the cut. Closer I do it to my fingers, easier it is to cut. That's a trick. Doing it like that, much harder. There is some burr left on here. But yeah, getting out further away is harder. Okay, another trick. Now, like I said, swirl cutting will really show you. See that burr? See that catch right there? That means there's burr. You see it stop me? Where it stops me, there's a piece of burr. Okay, it'll swirl cut because it's a damn sharp edge. But there's little pieces of burr grabbing. That is a very, very sharp and aggressive edge. Ooh, buddy. But it needs a strop because this 14C is too soft and it does not deburr very well. So we're going to go right at sharpening angle, 5 micron. Very light pressure, of course. Okay. Wipe that blade off. You don't want to recontaminate your strops. Or contaminate, you don't want to contaminate your strops, not recontaminate. What the hell? Okay, we should be pretty well clean of any burr. Look at that. That's what you want to see right there. Look at that. Okay, now that is what you call a very, very, very sharp edge. And crisply deburred. Beautiful. Very, very, very sharp edge. And that is what kingstones. That is what kingstones and a good strop will do. Nice, sticky, sticky, perfectly formed tip. Nice matte finish with excellent aggression. Come on, light. Excellent aggression. Perfectly formed tip. Beautiful. See if y'all can see. Yeah, see, there's no recurve in that. I don't know why it wasn't wanting to lift the burr up, but we got it now. I'm telling y'all, man, get you a kingstone. If you only want to buy one, get the 1200. I'd say it's probably the overall. If you're just gonna have one, it's probably the single one to get, because you can actually remove some steel with it should you need to. It finishes nicely. It's a good one and done stone for just touching up, and you know, even if you've got a dull knife that needs a sharpening, but it removes steel fast enough, especially on steels like this. It removes it fast enough that, you know, so long as there's no damage. If you just got a blunted edge, that 1200, you can hop on it and do everything on that stone. You can set set your apex and, you know, finish the knife on that 1200 and have a beautiful edge. Great bite, very keen, just an overall fantastic edge. That's why I like them so much. Plus that 1200, it leaves this really beautiful. You can't see it on the camera. It just won't pick it up, but it leaves this really beautiful, like matte type finish. It doesn't really have much. I mean, of course, it'll reflect light, but it's very matte, and I don't know. It's just a really pretty finish. See, that'll pick that up for you guys. But yeah, it's just a really pretty finish, and I really love the finish it leaves. I think it's beautiful, and on steels like this, that 1200, man, that is a fantastic edge for 14C. especially if it's softer 14C, which these are. These are at like 57, 58. They are definitely softer. You can clearly feel it on the stones. They are quite soft. And if you take them to a polish, they perform like shit. Do any of the Rake 14C knives, if you polish them, you have a very poor performing edge. 14C typically does quite well with a polish, but when it's really soft like that, it does not. It needs to be rather hard in order to do well with the polish. At 60, 61, that's where you want it if you're going to put a polish on it. Like no less than 60. If it's 60, 61, 62 in that range, it's going to polish nicely and perform pretty well with that polish. But if you're 57, 58, 59, I don't polish it. And the softer it is, the more sensitive it is to polish. You polish it, it just performs like shit. If it's down like 57, 58 like this, and you put a polish on it, it's garbage. It gets slick almost instantly. You're going to make a cut or two. You're going to have a slick edge. And the steel's not hard enough to maintain that crisp point. So it just doesn't cut. Or it'll quickly stop cutting because that crisp point, your apex, quickly, when it's soft like that, quickly begins to, abrade away and or crush in. And what happens is you wind up now, instead of having a nice crisp point, you get this. Starts to crush in or wear down. And the softer it is, the more that is the case. So to get it to perform decently, you want a healthy micro serration pattern. So you've got those teeth really doing the cutting, and those teeth are gonna stand up better than just that very tip of that apex. Stand up for a little longer. Now don't get me wrong. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of edge I put on this knife. It's not, the edge retention is going to be relatively poor. Yeah, like it's going to be relatively poor as far as edge retention. Ooh, buddy, that's a razor blade. Yeah, it's going to be poor. That's the part of it with soft steel. Get me a nice little smooth spot. So avoid polishing these. Keep them down in I'd say definitely no more than 1500, because you're going to start polishing at that point. This right here, I would say somewhere between 600 and like 1600 and 1500. Just right up to polish. No, once it begins to polish, don't go there. So like that 1200, I'd say, is actually closer to a 1500. It's right below polish, but it leaves a very nice micro serration, very nice teeth. Gets quite keen. Overall, fantastic. Great for knives like this with, soft steel. A simple composition, a low alloy composition that's on the very soft side. That is a beautiful stone for it. The 800 would have been beautiful for it too. Either or would have done great. So anyways, I hope y'all learned something. If you got soft 14C, don't polish it. If you've never tried king stones before, especially the soaking king stones, get you one, get you two. Sit down and you'll like it. Just it feels natural. You feel grounded when you're on those stones. I don't know how to explain it, but you do. They just feel like it just feels natural. It feels right. It feels like you're out, on a campsite, and feet shut, barefoot, and with an old, like not a recurve, what the hell you call them, like a traditional bow and some wooden arrows, and you're going out and gonna stick an elk. That's what sharpening on that stone feels like to me. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but that is what it is. There's the smell, the feel, the mud, the mess that it creates. It's fucking awesome, man. Thank y'all for spending your 51 minutes with me. Typical long video like normal. You guys know that's what's going to happen. Even if I try to keep it short, I'm not going to. Can't help it. So, there you go. Get you some king stones. I promise you'll love them. The 1200, definitely pick that one up. You get it for $30. I'll actually put it in the pinned comment. Get you one of them. You'll love it. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night. I'll talk to you later.